Okay. I've been getting a lot of questions on the YouTube channel videos about really long dry fasts. And the Russians only do 11-day because they've taken it to 18 without any benefits after 11, really. So they've tested this already. So I thought maybe, oh, by the way, welcome. I'm Dr. Augustinning, and I talk about dry fasting here. So if you're a new one to the channel, please go down and check out some of the other videos I've posted here on this channel, because you can learn a lot of stuff from those. But the idea here is to do a dry fast is to essentially create a period of time where you've initiated sleep metabolism. Because at sleep, all the body chemistry changes so that you can repair stuff. That's why you sleep, so you can hopefully repair stuff. Unfortunately, it's not really long enough to repair all the big stuff. And that's where dry fasting comes in. One of the things we face, two of the things we face, the big challenges, is iron loading from not being able to control your iron, labile iron pool, and the amount of damage from radiation and toxins and all this stuff in this wonderful environment that has all this stuff in it that ain't that healthy. So the way we do it, and I think what the Russians probably found out was that if you do a dry fast, because you don't eat and you don't drink, it's just like sleep. The sleep metabolism is initiated so that you can start fixing all kinds of stuff over long periods of time. And this is where this comes in, because as our exposure to these toxins gets greater and greater because our environment is just polluted at this point, you may need more than sleep to fix the problems. And it takes a long time to break down these great big forever chemicals and polyethylenes and all these long chain polyhydrogenated compounds and stuff that get into our food, get into our environment. We breathe the stuff in. It's just the way it is now. Dry fasting is the cure for a lot of stuff. And some of the stuff I've talked about on my Rumble channel. But for today, let's just talk about what a dry fast is. So you decide to do a dry fast. You stop eating and drinking. It's just about that simple. I recommend for people trying this to eat like a half a watermelon for like a couple of days to clean out your colon so you don't get constipated, because that can be irritating. If you get constipated at the beginning of a dry fast, it might throw you off of the idea. So do that first, then go into a dry fast. Just when you go to bed one night, get up in the morning and don't drink and don't eat for the next 5 to 7 days. That's the therapeutic period. The Russians say if you don't do at least 5 days, you're not getting the benefits of a dry fast. And there's so many to talk about, which I do in subsequent videos. So that's what you do. You just don't eat and don't drink for a few days. Now, a couple of things happen. In the first 2 days, you should be able to use up most of your sugar in your muscles, in your liver, and all that stuff. And when you run out of that fuel to run the mitochondria, it switches over to fat cells, because fat cells are triglycerides, which is glycerol, and free fatty acids plugged together, and they disassemble and put free fatty acids in the bloodstream to go to the cells to operate the mitochondria, glycerol to go to the liver to make plasma glucose, because one thing you have to make while you're dry fasting or on any kind of starvation is you have to make sugar in some way. The preferable way is to use your fat. The not so preferable way is to start grinding up your muscle tissues into antigenic peptides that can be used in ketosis. So it's like, no, you don't want to break up your muscles just to stay alive. And that's what dry fasting prevents. That's why I don't subscribe to water fasting, because the same systems don't get turned on over days that get turned on during a dry fast, and you end up eating up your own muscle. So you lose muscle mass and some fat. And then you gain back fat, because muscle's hard to build. So anyway, pretty busy down there. I think I'll just turn around and walk down the other way again. So that's what you do. You just stop eating, stop drinking. And at about day 3 into day 4, you get your energy back because you're working on fat now. And you're depleting a lot of fat. I mean, if you want to get rid of fat fast, do a dry fast. I mean, in 5 to 7 days, you can be 10 to 15 pounds of fat. Real fat, white adipose tissue, WAT. And it's really effective for doing that. And after that 3rd day, you start turning on different populations of stem cells. So you get stuff flooding into the bloodstream that ends up building new cells, creating new cells, copying stuff that's been damaged and replacing them with perfect genetic copies. Not like going out of the country for $25,000 a shot. Do it at home for free. Your parasites can't survive in it either, so your parasites parch out because they need water to stay alive, and you're not feeding them and you're not putting any water in your system, so they end up leaving the body, certainly the gastrointestinal tract. And the toxins, again, the stuff that we get absorbed and exposed to and get a chance to be ground down. You've got enough time in the grinding process. There's 3 systems in the cells that do this. There's the lysosomes, which you use all the time to break up crappy stuff and break down old broken proteins and stuff. And there's the peroxisomes, which work with the mitochondria and organelles near the endoplasmic reticulum. And the proteasome system, which is the ubiquitin proteasome system, where ubiquitin is plugged onto a toxin, like an mRNA, for instance, dragged over into a proteasome where it's chipped up and cut down in small segments and turned into energetic peptides and amino acids. Just dissolve the thing. So yeah, and that's what happens during a dry fast. And that period of time that can do all that work is right at the end of sleep. It takes like 8 to 10 hours of sleep to even turn on the phase of autophagy called chaperone-mediated autophagy that can drag these things into proteasomes and all this other stuff. Most people wake up at 7, 8 in the morning, they start eating immediately, they closes all autophagy off. So you maybe had an hour, 2 hours in that phase to do any good. So now do you see why sleep isn't enough? And how damage can build up over time that we call aging, but it's just the accumulation of damages and fixed at night because the sleep isn't long enough. So if you just do a dry fast, that's all solved. If you look at my book and get my book, The Phoenix Protocol for Rapid Healing and Radical Life Extension, you'll learn all about how to dry fast. My subsequent books take care of a lot of issues that can't be fixed by dry fasting, like building muscle and stuff. But for the first thing, the first pillar in the column of the temple of health is dry fasting, because it's a complete metabolic reset. You end up being healthier fast. You end up getting rid of fat fast. You end up taking stress off of joints and bursts up by removing that fat so fast in a week that your body responds and really likes what you've done to it. And it'll think about that, and you'll probably want to do another dry fast. That's usually the pattern that I've seen with everybody that's done this. There's a little bit of trepidation because they have this thought that, oh, if I don't drink for 3 days, I'll die. It's not true. Your body makes water every day with the mitochondria. And they go through the series and they find out, wow, it's not that tough, and a little uncomfortable here and there, some sleep problems, but that's just the body's repairing itself. Then you get out of it, replenish your electrolytes, and everything's back to normal, but you're healthier. You weigh less. You have a lightness to your step, so to speak. Also, a lot of mental problems go away with dry fasting. A lot of addictions and that sort of thing, because you get rid of the toxins over that time that are stimulating the genes to want more of those toxins, and they're gone, and the impact of having them removed results in a lack of desire to have the addictive substances. We've seen this in alcoholism, we've seen it in drug use, cocaine use, methadone, all the bad meths use. And because if you take the stored toxin out of the body that's continually pinging the genes to have more of it, you get rid of the problem. It's just like the parasites. When you get rid of the parasites, you get rid of the signals that make you want to eat the crappy food, the sugary food, the cinnamon buns, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a very interesting therapy. It's a serious therapy. You have to take it serious, especially if you go to a 7-day. You shouldn't even do an 11-day unless you have medical supervision, because there's things that happen in that second ketotic state that are really dicey, and you have to have someone there to help you, basically. But 5 to 7, easy peasy, nice and easy. Oh wow, look at the pelicans up there. Fun. Anyway, so yeah, also people have been asking me about the 20-year thing, what happens in 20 years and that sort of stuff. Well, Ben and I are making a movie about this, and the link is below if you want to see the trailer. At some point, maybe he and I can get online together and talk about this stuff, but his stuff is about that, my stuff is about healing, and healing long enough so you can be healthy enough to see this event when it happens. That's pretty cool. It could be one of those once in 20,000 or 12,000 year events, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, so that's kind of the deal. Look down below for the links, it's there. Anyway, so I'm going to go for a walk and enjoy the day, and I will talk to you later. Gosh, there may even be some waves later. You never know. Anyway, talk to you soon. Bye.